Yeah, we are good to start. Over to you.
Okay. That's- So, hello everybody. Very happy to be here, and I'm going to present my new topic about the Sitecore multi-site solutions. We will look at the different approaches that we can build it, and we will compare some pros and cons of each of them. So, let's start with the short introduction of myself. And my name is Artem Proshkovich, and I have more than 13 years of programming experience in general. Primarily, I did the backend work. Sometimes I did the front end, but yeah. So in general, it is more than 13 years. And since April 2012, I work for the Brimit Sitecore partner, and currently I took a position of the solution architect. I have almost 13 years of experience in Sitecore as well. So, but also I was awarded the Sitecore Technology MVP, something around 7 times in a row. I haven't counted for a long time. And for the last few years, I fall in love in yachting, and I obtained some different licenses. And a few times in a year, my family and my friends, we rent some yachts and catamarans and have weekly long trips. So that's kind of hobby. But let's back to the main topic why we are here today, and let's talk a bit about the XM Cloud. I'm pretty sure almost all of us already know what is the XM Cloud, and probably somebody already even have the experience to work with. But I will say a few words about it anyway. And the XM Cloud actually represent the cloud version of Sitecore Experience Manager, also known as XM. And basically, this is the cloud-based content management system. And as it's the content management system, it allows us to create, manage, and deploy digital content. So also, I will mention a few key functions of the XM Cloud, not all, but probably measures. And once the XM Cloud is a cloud-based technology, so it is managed by the platform owner, which eliminates the need of the companies to handle hosting, updates, and infrastructure setup and maintenance, etc., as well as the scalability and performance. The XM Cloud itself is responsible for scalability and increase or decrease the number of the resources allocated for your solution. So XM Cloud provides the number of tools, and probably one of the most important is deploy tool, which allow us for some etc. cases just deploy our solution to the XM Cloud without having our own pipelines or DevOps platform. So it can be used it can be done with default technologies provided by XM Cloud. And the last point that I want to mention is that the XM Cloud is headless CMS, which means that we have to host our front end, or let's say rendering application, somewhere separately, and it is up to you where you want to host it. So it can be probably some Node.js server hosted somewhere on your infrastructure. It can be some third-party platforms, for example, Vercel, which we are going to talk next. So the Vercel itself, it is actually, the Vercel is a partner of Sitecore, and Sitecore promotes the organization use the Vercel, and there is a few reasons why. And but first, let's define what is it. And Vercel is a cloud platform that enables developers to deploy, manage, and scale web application easily. And again, it is a popular hosting for the Next.js application, as the company behind the Vercel is also a creator of the Next.js. And Vercel kind of designed to run this kind of applications. However, Vercel supports the wide range of the front-end frameworks, not only the Next.js, and static site generators, making it a universal platform for various web projects. Talking about the features provided by Vercel, makes sense to mention some of them. And this is in the first, Vercel provides the serverless functions, the capabilities, allowing developers to run backend code without managing a separate server. The next one is important one, that the Vercel uses a global content delivery network to ensure that the website and applications are fast and responsive, regardless of where the user is located. So it is distributed around the world, which guarantees us that the speed of response will be maximum. While Vercel works best with the Next.js, as I said before, it also supports other frameworks like React, Vue.js, Angular, which are limit us in terms of the technologies that we want to use. And this is pretty good. Oops, sorry. Vercel handles scaling automatically as well as the XM Cloud. So then in that part, we also don't need to think about the scalability. So this is something up just where the Vercel take the responsibility of. And the last point is probably most important for the business owners and organizations, because Vercel offers the real-time performance monitoring and analytics tools to help developers as well as business understand how their sites and applications perform. Sorry. So the next slide will actually represent the architecture of multi-site solutions that we built in Sitecore. But before, I want to define and to explain why we, in general, need to think about the multi-site solutions. Because this is it is important to understand why we're actually talking about this topic in general. So based on even my experience, and for the 13 years, I only remember a few clients of us that haven't used the multi-site. So almost all companies prefer to use and actually use the multi-site setup, because the Sitecore is focused on the enterprise level clients, or in the middle market. But anyway, all of them usually have a different representation in different countries, or they have a different languages, or one organization can have different brands. So all these cases, when the Sitecore user, I mean the organization that use Sitecore, will want to have the separate sites and manage them separately. So then it is make Sitecore pretty much following this requirement of the client, and good options to choose Sitecore if you need it. So let's go further to the diagram. And this is the pretty common case of using multi-site architecture with Sitecore, XM Cloud, or even with just the on-premise Sitecore setup, but with the headless application, but when it built in the headless approach. So in our case, we have the XM Cloud with 3 sites defined: site alpha, beta, and gamma. So actually, it is just an example, but I prepared a few slides to show you the difference between the approaches. So, and from now we will talk only about the XM Cloud. So then all diagrams will be relevant to the architecture of the XM Cloud. So from another side, we have the Vercel, where we have 3 applications running. So this is architecture represent the case when we have 3 websites, and all of the 3 websites have own code base. So meaning that they are different, completely different. So which means that we have to deploy them separately. Each code should be code, or each app that we define in the code should be deployed to the Vercel separately. So then we will have 3 pipelines, or let's say 3 pipelines that will push code to the Vercel, as well as we have pipeline. Doesn't matter who is owner of this pipeline. So is it the default Sitecore XM Cloud deploy tool, or it is, for example, our own pipelines? Doesn't matter. We have to deploy at least Sitecore authoring, which is represent the backend code with some maybe items or with some customizations. And in current example, we use the editing host running under the XM Cloud as well. So, and then we have to deploy 3 rendering hosts, editing hosts, let's call them editing hosts, in the same time, every time when we run our pipeline. So XM Cloud does not provide us an ability to deploy them separately. We define them in the config, and then with the deploy tool, we can deploy the whole XM Cloud environment in one time, so we cannot separate it. Which means that if we updated only the alpha, deploy to the Vercel, but we need some updates running in the XM Cloud, we will have to deploy all of them. We cannot do the deployment only for the alpha. So what happens next? Once we have updated the code or the content in Sitecore XM Cloud, we do publish, which push the content to the Sitecore Edge platform, which then serve the content to our front-end applications. So also, I want to mention that in the last releases of the XM Cloud, we use the context ID, which is actually the ID of the environment. And also, we have 2 context IDs provided by Sitecore, one for the live content and one for the preview. So when we push live context ID to our request, so then the Sitecore Edge will respond as the contact which was published, let's say, to the web. Previously it was web database. Now we will call it like just live content. So each application in Vercel has own host assigned to it. So when the request comes to the alpha application, alpha application defines the site name. So actually it has some site name assigned to it, and send it to the request to the Sitecore Edge within the context ID. And based on the context ID, Sitecore Edge understand which environment you are calling from and respond you the corresponding content. Okay. Sorry. This is the probably common and regular view of build-end applications, because usually we have not usually, but time to time we have different code per different application, and we deploy them separately. So this is how it works. The next diagram is represent pretty similar, but with the external editing host. So from this time, we don't deploy our editing host to the XM Cloud. We use our Vercel application as an editing host. So here I put an example how the requests to the editing host goes from the XM Cloud. Here the example is just for the Gamma website, but each site has pretty similar flow of requests to define to use the editing host. So when we open the experience editor or even pages in our XM Cloud for the Gamma website, the request to the API editing and render goes to our corresponding application. In case of the Gamma, it is Gamma front-end app, and the API editing render endpoint is used to provide the editing markup for Sitecore, and used by Sitecore in that host and endpoint used internally by Sitecore only. Once our application understands that the request goes to the editing, from the editing tool, it should reach the content from Sitecore to render. And now, from the application, we do the request at the Sitecore edge. So before, it was the Sitecore CM server, CM instance was used as an endpoint. There was introduced like GraphQL preview endpoint, which was used by application directly. But now, in the latest releases, I don't remember exactly where it was introduced, we use the context, the preview context ID, to send the request to the Sitecore edge, and when it is preview, edge platform understands that the content that the request should be proxied to the Sitecore CM and do this request for us. So now we don't need to build some various of requests to the CM or to the edge in case of the live content. The request always come to the edge. Only difference in the context ID that we push that we send within our request. So when the preview content is the content that comes from the master database back to our application. It is rendered the markup for editing tools and back to the Sitecore again. So now we have our experience editor or pages working with the external editing host running in Vercel. And in that case, when we change, for example, beta, we can deploy only beta site, only beta application to the Vercel, and get latest code only for the one application. And we shouldn't push the rest of the sites to our environments. And within the CI/CD process of our XM Cloud, we only deploy the authoring code, which is backend code, C# backend code to the XM Cloud. One more important thing, on my diagram, you also can see the Redis, and the Redis is required for the external editing host running in the Vercel. It is described in the Sitecore documentation. It is used to store our rendering our JSON objects that we currently got from the Sitecore and used to manage to content in pages. So without the Redis, the pages will work wrong within the external editing host. So it is pretty. I will probably push the link to the article from the Sitecore explaining how to do that. It is fully described and easy and clear, but sometimes it needs to be done manually. Let's go further. Now we will look at the situation when we have only one rendering app, but multiple websites, which means that the code base of our application are always the same, but maybe some theme is different, some styles different, which is managed inside core itself in the component level, on the site level, doesn't matter, but we have the same code for all our applications. So, and here also we have a few different ways to implement it. And in the current diagram, I show you how our Next.js application works with the Multisite add-on, which allow us to resolve the website based on the host name. And it is kind of easy. When we build and deploy our Vercel application, on build time, we put all our sites with its host names assigned to it to the temp config JSON file, which means that if you define or if you change the host name associated with the website in Sitecore, the changes will be and saved here or come on. Save it in Sitecore, even publish. So we will not see these changes in the rendering host because the config JSON is generated only on the build time. So when the build happens, Next.js application do the request to the Sitecore by GraphQL to reach all websites with the host names associated with them and put this data to the config JSON. And based on that, when the requests come to the application, it try to resolve the website that you try to request based on the host names written in the config JSON. So in that case, we have only one application running in Vercel, and this application serves all websites, rendering for all sites that we have. As well as it can be used as an external rendering host for each website anyway, but in the setting of the website, we should put the corresponding URL to the rendering host. I mean, for the host should be associated with the site. So then the site resolver can resolve the name of the site, and then it will return you it will respond to the right data from the corresponding website. I mean that for the alpha, the host name will look like alpha.com/API/editing/render. Again, we have what is the cons of this approach is that we have to deploy this application once, but for all websites. And if you have a lot of content or a lot of static pages that need to be generated on the build time, every time when we will deploy this application to the Vercel, we will build all these static pages for all websites, which can extend the time of the build. Okay, let's go further. And here, the similar application buzzes with the editing host. And For this slide, I just wanted to show you that even you have the single application running in the Vercel, which serves the traffic for all your websites, you have to deploy the editing host 3 times for each application. For each your website separately, even you deploy the same code. So it doesn't, it will not work on the front end side or in the XM Cloud. So then deployment will be extended with the different, with the additional applications, with additional copy of the application, just serving the editing host for each website. And the last diagram, probably, yes, is for the approach that we currently use for our customers running the multi-site solution within the Vercel. And in case of we have the one code for each of them. The only one difference here that we use the external editing host for each of our websites. We don't deploy editing host to the Sitecore. And we deploy each website separately. So we have the pipeline which will deploy alpha, pipeline for beta, and pipeline for gamma. Even all of them have the same code, but to be honest, we also have the pipeline deploy all, if in case we want to upgrade everything, but we have an ability to deploy it separately as well. And in that case, we can deploy the website independently. So if you want to deploy to the only alpha, so we have this option. And from this XM Cloud point of view, nothing changed. We have 3 our website running there and one pipeline to deploy our customizations to the XM Cloud. Okay, and once we had a look to the architectures that we can have in our solution, now let's talk a bit about the pros and cons of each of them. And my slides of pros and cons are built based on the so comparing the multiple applications deployment, comparing with the standalone application, and the pros and cons are prepared based on the context that we build the multiple applications. So then when I'm saying the pros, it means that this is the pros for the multiple application comparing with the standalone. And the first thing that I want to say is that with the separate app, with the multiple apps, you can make use of the parallel builds on your host to deploy the multiple sites at the same time. So you can build and deploy the sites in the parallel, which will increase the speed of the deployment. But again, you can deploy single application, only one application, let's say, in case of multiple apps, as I said so before. So this is the second point, actually. And if you even update the content, so the code can be the same, but the templates can be different in Sitecore, so you even can deploy one site and update the content from one site and keep everything else as is for the time being. Again, with the multiple apps, you can perform the canary deployments and probably kind of A/B testing, which means that you can deploy the new code only to the part of your applications. For example, if you have if you have different application for the different countries, but the code even still the same, you can deploy it only to the one country and see how it works, and then roll out for the rest of the countries. For example, just an example. And which cons we have in that point of the build and deployment. So our Edge platform, Sitecore Edge platform, have a limit of the request that it can be reached. So then if you have a lot of pages generated during a build, so you can reach the limit of the request that can be handled by Edge in a moment. Again, all pages in your sites will be generated and built, as I said right now. And if you have a lot of sites pages, that can be extended the build time again. So this is also the cons. So you generate a lot of pages, and then it's increase the time of the build. And you cannot in standalone app, you cannot deploy, and you cannot deploy a single site. So you always need to redeploy all your applications. Redeploy all your websites, let's say. From the performance point of view, running the multiple application, so let's say the application for each website, it is the standard method for Next.js application to be deployed. So because originally the Next.js application represent the one site. So, and it is how it is designed to work. And if we're talking about the standalone application with the multiple add-on used on it, we may have a small performance impact, as every request must go through the middleware to resolve the site based on the host, and then rewrite the content from the desired site folder from that site. And probably the last slide related to the comparison of the approaches is about other minor things. Let's say in the multi-site multiple application approach, you can define the custom pages for your 44 or 500 errors and manage the content for them within the XM Cloud. If talking about the standalone application, you cannot define these error pages per site. So unfortunately, only 144 and 500 error page can be defined for your Next.js application. And one important, from my point of view, point is that in multiple application approach, your analytics and your metrics, performance metrics and logs are collected for each application separately, ensuring isolated tracking, simplified analysis and troubleshooting in the future, enhancing the security and enabling the targeted optimization of your application's performance. So when you have one app which serves all traffic going to each website, so then your analytic, your metrics, some speed metrics as well, and website speed metrics, everything is collected in one place. So then it makes more difficult to analyze it, and having it separately, you can do that more effectively. Let's go to the next slide, which actually represent the architecture of the demo that I'm going to show you. It looks similar with the slides that we had before, but for the demo, I still built three very simple websites and application, and the application itself are represented as a starter kit from the Sitecore built on the Next.js, and I deployed 3 times, each for per website, per the site defined in Sitecore XM Cloud. And I also deployed a standalone rendering, which will serve requests for all sites as well. And we have the 3 sites defined in Sitecore. And again, talking about the deployments, we use the Azure DevOps. So we store our content in the repo inside of the DevOps as well. And we usually prefer to build our own pipelines to build and deploy apps to the Vercel or even to the XM Cloud using some CLI, because we want to keep it under the control. So we definitely know that XM Cloud have the deploy tool, which works good, and maybe for the small companies, for the small websites also can be used, but we want to keep under the control everything which we do with the website, with the deployments. We create even the deployment to the Vercel not only depends the Vercel itself. For example, when the deployment in a real project and for the enterprise client within the Vercel deployments should happen the deployment to the order cloud, for example. Sometimes the deployment should be happen to the some middlewares, and it is impossible to use only the deployment tools provided by the Vercel or by the XM Cloud to manage all this global deployment to the website. So all should be deployed the same and in the parallel, and it is only possible when we handle the deployments within our pipelines. So let's quickly have a look to the application that I built for you. And okay, this is my plan. First, I want to show the pretty simple up. Okay, let maybe have a look in a bit different way. Okay, I'm not sure. Oh, okay, I can zoom it. So this is my demo application. It is pretty standard, pretty simple. This presentation not about the complexity of the build in the front end or back end. So it's just to show you how we can proceed the deployments, how we can proceed, how we can build a multi-site architecture. And we have the authoring part, which is regular .NET solution, where I have only one config edit, and this config is for to define the editing secret. Editing secret is need to be set from the config side, and few customizations like I have added the buttons to push the cache from the Vercel. So, but I will show you about it later. Everything else is here is standard and nothing interesting. From the front-end side, we have the Next.js application, which is just even not just downloaded from the Sitecore SXA starter kit Next.js application. So no customizations here. That's it. So next, let me find my window. No. Okay, I need this one. Okay. We'll zoom in a bit. So, and this is our Azure DevOps account where we perform the build of our artifacts for Vercel and for the XM Cloud. As I said before, we use Azure CLI, not Azure, so XM Cloud CLI to perform the build for XM Cloud. And basically, our build pipelines doesn't do a lot. It just run a solution build to make sure the build works, this kind of continuous integration. And we mark and add some artifacts to specify the number of build to make it clear for us. And so we push the code, the build code to the artifacts, and then with the release pipeline, we push it to the XM Cloud itself. So let's see the release pipeline for XM Cloud. Again, it is pretty easy. We just define some variables of environment. We defined client ID, client secret, and the artifacts that we want to push to the XM Cloud. Again, keep it under our control. We can do the rollback to any version we want, but it is also possible with the default deployment tool from the XM Cloud. But it is more usual way to do that for us. And at the end, we just run the command of the XM Cloud to deploy and give the code that we have in our repo for that, and it is push latest code and items to the XM Cloud. And if you will look at the XM Cloud, let's see the deployment first. So yes, we can see that the deployments happened from the CI/CD. So this is the token name, and it is not run from here. So the deployments always run from DevOps, and but we have tracked it here as well. So we can see that we have 3 sites. In the details, we can see the context ID that I was talking before, and actually we have the preview, which will point us to the preview database, and we have the live context ID, which will point us directly to the content from the edge for the live content. And in the developer settings, we actually can see probably, yes, it provides us the different values for context ID to run the environment locally. It depends which data you will get from the live or from the CM server directly from the master database. So if you will look at the architecture of information architecture inside of the Sitecore, we will see that 3 websites running here. I haven't even changed them. This is the default websites. I'm just changed a few labels to make it visible. So the most important part here that we are configuring the external editing host inside of the settings, site settings, and you can see that we use our custom Vercel application as an editing host. So all of these websites will have own settings for the external editing host. This is for alpha, and this separated for the gamma. All of them use the same templates. No customizations here. It is just to show you the ability to manage the different websites. Okay. Also, one thing that I want to show you. This is the host names that are assigned to my website. I have a few of them, and the first one is directly the host name that I assigned with the Vercel application. The second one is a wildcarded host name, which will match to the preview host names assigned by Vercel. It will allow us to do the preview of the deployment before it goes live. And the last one is the host name for the standalone application. So where for the case where we have only one application for all websites. So let's go further to the Vercel. Okay. In Vercel, we have, sorry. In Vercel, we have 4 websites, 4 application running, as I said. We have the alpha, beta, gamma, and we have the standalone application. Standalone application, which will serve traffic for all websites as well. So, and if you will have a look, for example, to the alpha, so we will see the alpha website, pretty standard. The same for the beta, and so it don't make sense just to open to all of them. When I say that we have the preview URLs assigned by Vercel, so then we can move to the deployments. There is a list of deployments that we have, and again, let me see the release of Vercel. I will create a new one. I have a few stages here. So I have the stage for the all, which means that all websites, all applications will be deployed, or I can deploy them separately. And now I will run the demo, the deployment for the beta website. And now I'm back to the Vercel until it takes a few minutes to finish the deployment. So each application running in the Vercel has a bunch of a list of the analytics collecting. In my case, it was not be enabled because it is a sandbox account, and actually it takes money to enable it. So, but having it separately for each website, you will get this analytics in much more convenient way. So you will have only the analytics related to your web app. And also talking about the comparison of the multi-application approach, or the approach where we have only one application per all websites. From the Vercel point of view, there is no difference in terms of the costs. So you cost for the overall number of requests or to the sites or etc. It depends. It doesn't matter how many applications you run. It's only difference in the approach you use from the costs point of view. It's all the same. So again, the logs will be also collected per your application and all this stuff. And you can even configure some firewall or rules separately. So from my point of view, big deal. So let's see. Deployment still going. Let's maybe check quickly. Yes, deployment already. There is some time lag between the Vercel and Azure DevOps. We added some idle to make sure the deployment is finished. So now we can see that our current deployment is staged, and the previous deployment is in a live. And when we will open the deployment, we can actually see which code or how the deployment gone, and if you can check if everything works as expected. For example, for the better website, and for this kind of URLs, we have to use wildcard in our site definition, actually. And when we make sure that everything works as expected, we can promote our website to go to production, let's say. Okay, better. And now we can see that the latest deployment is currently in live. So probably that's it. What I was going to talk about today. Let's back to the presentation, and thank you for your attention, guys. And I'm open to answer any question you have, if you have so.
Hi,
No
Stream Sartaj
questions?
here.
Hi.
Hi, Stream Sartaj here. Actually, we just want to know in Vercel, as we can suppose we have one website, and in Vercel we create a project. Inside the project, we have option we can choose different branches. For in suppose I want same report. I want actually staging and preview from two different branches. So in Vercel, can we do that?
Yes, again, you can configure your Vercel deployments, which will track the different branches, one for the staging or let's say to the preview app, and another branch for the production. But again, we prefer to do that separately. So we using the same Vercel CLI, we can deploy the applications from our pipelines, and we are not like link any application to any branch in our repository. We all deploy it, let's say, manually based on our pipelines. So, but yes, in Vercel, you can also define, you can link different branches for different apps.
Because what happens, we have multi websites, so I want to create for one website two different branch, one for editing, one for production on the same project. So main website is connected with suppose main branch, and for editing I want same project, but editing will be in different branch.
Yes, I don't see any problems here. So you can define just two app in a Vercel, one from the, let's say, main branch, and for the editing from develop branch. So that there is no
Yes,
problem.
sir. Okay, thank you for the answer.
One more questions. Uh, Actually, I have a three website, Alpha, Beta, and Gamma, like your presentations. But all the three code in the same repository, or it would be in a different repository?
Could you repeat your questions? I haven't got it, sorry.
Just like as per your presentations, there is a three site in a single projects, Alpha, Beta, and Gamma. So you have created a repository and you segregate the SRC folders under the rendering folder. So the naming convention Alpha, Beta, and Gamma. So when I
Yes.
deployed in a XM Cloud, so then firstly we initiate the project, so only one code we got from the XM Cloud in our Git repository in a main branch. Okay, for the three website we create the three folders under the renderings, three SRC for the three different websites, Alpha, Beta, and Gamma, as per your presentation. Okay, and then be deployed in a Vercel on the basis of the context ID of Alpha and Beta and Gamma, right?
Right.
So my question is, we can manage all the things from the single repository.
Yes, it can be from the single repository, no problem. Here again, as I said, you can build it as you explained. Definitely, there is the two ways. Yeah, sorry.
We need to do some settings in next config.js and Sitecore rendering part to that particular website Alpha communicate with my Alpha code only.
there is actually the most important that your alpha rendering host understands that it should request the alpha website. So, and your application do that based on two things. If you use the multi-site add-on, it will define the site dynamically based on your host name that you send requests from. Let's say in the Vercel. So, or if you don't use the multi-site add-on for the Next.js, your application name is in the config will be used as a site name. So then this site name will be used to in the request of the Sitecore age. So Sitecore age doesn't know which site you actually request. So Sitecore age just know the context ID that you send it, and the site name and language and path. And based on these parameters, the Sitecore age will resolve the content that you will want to get from the Sitecore itself. But even the Sitecore, the request of the Sitecore doesn't come. So only the Sitecore age responsible to handle the content, the provided content for your application.
Okay.
So
Okay, in a Sitecore, at a builder part, when I deployed code in a 3 different folders, then in this case, we deployed suppose that I create a component in a alpha website and B component in a gamma website, and C component also present in a and a B as well. So how can manage this scenario? We keep this component code in a global folders.
So now we are going to more deep discussion of the build and the web application itself. So in my case, so the most cases that I was working on, it was the same code base for each website, and we haven't separated the separate components for different websites. So basically, if your websites are different in terms of the components, then it is better to define the code for each of them and deploy it separately. Each application deployed from own code base, even from the same repository, but from the different folder. And then you can define the components for each website. But again, if you want to share the components between 3 different websites, then you can build it in a bit different application. There is technology, or even it is called approach. It is monorepo. This is how you can define the components on the global level and then share it with the different applications defined on the lower level. So this is it is called like monorepo on the front end side.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
If there is no question, then we can wrap this up.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. And if anyone of you have any questions, you can reach out to us on LinkedIn or community Slack, so we can coordinate from there.
Okay.
Sure.
Thank
Thank you very much.
Thank you. Yeah. Bye bye, guys. Have a good
Thank
day.
you.
Bye.